Hello, everyone. We're going to be promoting a bunch of people to panelists, so it's much more fun for us to get to see all of you as opposed to me just being stuck with Nick this whole time, which is not fun for anybody. Let's just be clear. We're super excited to have everybody today. While we start getting some people promoted, we'd love for you to share where you're joining us from. Who traveled the furthest today?
Hmm.
Where is everybody from?
I'm pulling up the chat so I can see. Well, it depends who traveled the farthest from where? From California,
Oh,
because
from
I'm a
from
blonde Cali
California,
girl,
obviously.
or Maryland
Obviously.
on the East Coast where the real coast is.
Oh, the worst coast. West Coast, best coast. You didn't know that you were signing up for an East Coast, West Coast rap battle by joining this webinar.
Exactly. Why be less when you can be more?
How long have you waited to say that? Does it just sit in your pocket waiting for every opportunity for you to pull it out? How many other dad jokes are we
Andrew
subject
Bloom
to
knows.
today?
He gets it.
All right, y'all, we are so excited to have all of you today. Listen, this webinar is free 99, but I do have a request. This is the cost of you coming today. I'm going to ask that you all turn on your cameras because it's much more fun for us to talk to people and then little black boxes. And neither Nick nor I showed up with a bag on our head today. So I'm going to ask that nobody else do that either, and everyone throw on their camera so we get to see your amazing faces. Hello, everyone. Hey, Gage. Hey, Ashley. Hey, Brad. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Jake. Hey, Brenda. Hey, Andrew again. Two Andrews for the price of one, right on the top of my screen. All right. Julie Youngblood water cooler. That's funny. All right, y'all. Let's jump in. Nick, we're both sticklers for time. One of us is sticklers for time, and so I want to get started on time to respect everybody else's time. And we thought a lot about what we wanted to do today. And normally on these webinars, I feel like people come on and they sort of impose a playbook upon you on what they think is important or as much as we can fit into an hour, what they think you should know. Or usually it's because they're actually selling something at the end of the webinar. So rest assured, none of that is happening today. We don't have a PowerPoint. We don't have an
Wait a minute.
explicit playbook. Are you
I
selling
have
something
steak
today?
knives that are fantastic. At the end, I'm going to give you the how to get them. They're the best knives you can buy, and they're very cheap, 19.99 per knife.
Nick himself will come to your house and sharpen them for you. Uh, and when we were talking about this, I said, I think Nick, what would be best for everyone. I don't love when I get on these types of webinars and someone has done something as incredible as what Nick has achieved, and they don't. And I don't really have the opportunity to dive into what I believe would be important as someone who has also built organizations and struggled to hit some of these mile markers that you've hit. And so I said, I got Nick's permission that instead of building out this playbook together, what we thought would be important, I said, would it be okay if I just interviewed you? Like if I just asked you all the hard questions, all the questions I would want to know if I was sitting in the audience. And he was kind enough to say yes. So today is really going to be interview style. So my recommendation to all of you is that you get a notepad and a pen out so that you can take tons of notes because this is going to be extremely valuable. And I'm really excited to get to learn myself alongside all of you and to get to hear some of your story about how you got to 1 million in revenue in 1 month, which is an incredible mile marker in this industry. A lot of people try to get to that in 1 year, and to achieve it in 1 month is pretty incredible. So let's jump in because I want to make sure that we maximize our time with you today, Nick. It's funny. I don't know about you, but when you've been in the industry for a while and you've built something that people are excited about, I think this thing happens that people sort of think that you've always been this way. And I've had the privilege to know you long before you hit this million in a month. And I can verify that he was not always this way. He's always been an incredible human being, but I've gotten to cheer Nick on the sidelines while he's grown over the years. And so I'd love for you to talk about like a little bit about where you came from, Nick. Like this didn't just happen. You didn't arrive here. You've been in the industry for a long time. This has taken a long time to get to. So give us a little bit of the background, a little bit of your story prior to getting to this point.
Yeah, Cynthia asked the comment. She said, "Who are you people, and why are we here?" So there we go, Cynthia. Let's talk a little bit about that. So I started selling real estate 22 years ago. 22 years ago, I came from a franchise business. I used to sell Cold Stone Creameries. If you guys have ever had that high dollar ice cream. And then I got into real estate and I learned very quickly, and I actually have it literally written down right here, that repeatable actions create predictable outcomes. And it's the same thing in a franchise business as it is in our business. So, how do we create those repeatable actions so that we can grow over time for those predictable outcomes? And over those years, I failed more than anyone. I had so many struggles, so many misses, so many things that didn't go the right way. And one of the things you're going to hear throughout this whole thing is, but I always had a belief that I needed to be learning based. I needed to be humble. I needed to be focused on growth and getting better. I never could let ego come in and get in the way. And I started surrounding myself with other people they wanted their personal and professional best. They wanted to grow as people as well as in business. They wanted to constantly learn. They never developed that ego of thinking they did it or they made it. They always strive for, what did I do last year? That's my barometer. And how can I beat myself from last year?
And Nick, there's somebody sitting on this call who's either knows you or is just meeting you and saying, I want to do that. I want to get to 1 million in revenue in a month. I want my team to be able to execute that. And I maybe just started this team a year ago or 2 years ago. How long from the time that you started your real estate team until now did it take you to hit this mile marker?
22 years. 22 years
22 years.
of focusing on the right behaviors, of messing things up, of failing on it, of trying things and it not working, of having great people join me along the journey, and then for whatever reason go in a different direction. For having other great people join me and stay with me for 10 or 12 or 15 years, and they're still with me today. It's funny that we forget all of those all of those people that have come in and out of our lives. And obviously I focus on the people that are still in my world, still in my life, still working together as partners on our team. Those are the people that I pour into every day. But there's a laundry list of people that didn't see this as their path, didn't think this was going to help them. And I look back at where they are now, and I'm so proud of the people that are waking up every day and how do I get better? And just give you an example for our team, we have a health scorecard. And our health scorecard on our team, I look at exactly how much money they put into their bank account by this time last year. And every month we update that. So, Nikki, if you were on my team, if I was that lucky, we would look at it and say, hey, by June 30th last year, you had made X amount of dollars. This year, you're up 12%, you're up 22%, you're down 7%. And that's our barometer of, am I pouring into you? Am I helping you grow every single year, every single month? And is it always perfect trajectory? No, there are people that have been down 48% from last year and had a really off year. And we dug into their business and we tried to figure out what was going off. And other people that are up 400% this year. And then we went in and celebrated their business and also tried to figure out what are those actions that they were taking to create those results and how do we duplicate them over and over and over again. So you start to see that this is not like, I love the title, the $1 million month. Nick, how did you do it? Guys, spoiler alert, I didn't do it. And I don't think any single agent in the world could do it. It's creating an organization and having a shared why. That shared why for us is, how do we grow personally and professionally every day? How do we get better and become better versions of ourselves so that I show up as a better husband, which I'm struggling with, showing up as a better father, showing up as a better friend, showing up as a better son. And every one on my team has that same focus. And that's how we work together. That's that shared vision that we are all pushing towards that. And it's the culmination of all those people that create the success that, webinar like this gets you to jump on because you're like, oh, 1 million in GCI in a month. I need to figure out what he did. He didn't do anything.
Yeah, I love that. And it's you did something. I'm gonna I know Nick well enough to know that he will continue through this entire webinar to give credit to his team and none to himself. But I do, for the people who are on their own leadership journey, building their own teams, I'm going to make sure that we ask you a lot about how you've had to change, because you have had to change. You have had to change as a leader. You've had to change your thinking over time. But take me back to Nick 22 years ago. Could you ever have imagined 22 years ago, when you were starting your real estate business, could you ever have imagined that you would be doing a webinar like this?
Okay, so let me just picture it right now. I'm there. I've got spiky hair. There's
You're
frosted
14
tips
years old.
somewhere in there. I look like I should be, in 98 Degrees or Backstreet Boys. Okay, I remember the time. I wore a tie because I looked like I was 12, so I was trying to look older. No, I thought if I could make $50,000 in a year, that would be exceptional. In fact, it was fast forward 10 years, maybe 9 years, when someone handed me the MREA book, which is somewhere within arm's reach of me at all times. And I read this book and it said, net $1 million in a year. And I remember reading it and thinking, this is insane. Can an agent actually do this? Is this even possible? And that was probably the moment where I started thinking, man, if someone else could do it, why couldn't I do it? If someone
Yeah.
else could create that and build that and help that many people, why couldn't I do it? So, like, I would say probably 15 years ago was about the time where it dawned on me that that's even humanly possible in our industry.
Yeah.
Before that, I don't know, $50,000, 75,000. My God, if I could make 100,000, insane.
It was a ton of money. Yeah. I mean, to let you all know who Nick is, I had to pressure him a little bit, is the word we'll use. Because we're good friends, I would probably say that I bullied him a little bit into, for those that are asking for the book, that's the one. And I bullied him a little bit into doing this webinar because he said, I don't want to get on, it feels yucky. I don't want to get on here and talk about myself and talk about the success. Like, I just don't want to do it. And I said, here's why I need you to do it. Nick and I have had conversations in the past about how lucky we are that this industry has given a lot to us, and we both care a lot about giving back to it. And I said, there is somebody who is going to be on that call who's a lot like us when we were young. And we were going to some of these seminars and we were reading books like MREA, and it was expanding what we believed was possible for us inside the industry. And it took you 22 years to get to 1 million in revenue in 1 month. But because we do this webinar, I'm betting that somebody who's listening to it today is going to be able to get there in 15 years or 10 years or 5 years
Or
because
four.
of what they,
Yeah.
yeah, or four, because of what they learned from you today. And so thank you for that. But I want everyone to recognize what Nick is talking about, which is that success is a staircase, right? It's anything but linear. And success is a staircase. And part of being able to get to something like 1 million in a month, you have to first get to 100,000 in a month and 200,000 in a month. And these types of achievements have to normalize in your mindset and in your business. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that staircase, Nick, because I think that sometimes people get on here and they look up and say, okay, well, I'm doing 50,000 a month right now, and I want to jump right from 50,000 to 1 million. I'm like, let's first do 100,000. Let's first double, right? And not to say
Yep.
you can't get to 1 million that quickly, you can, but it's got to normalize a bit along the way. And it's taking you some time for it to normalize. And I'd love for you to talk about that journey too.
Yeah. I mean, I think in the beginning, I was so focused on sales. I was so focused
Yeah.
on, all right, I did 30 sales in a year. Okay. How do I get to 40? How do I get to 50? Wow. I did 57. Do you think I could do 75? Wow. If I wanted to get to 75, I need to hire somebody. I need to have an assistant. Okay. Now I hired that assistant. It didn't go well and it failed. So then I had to hire another one and that didn't go well and it failed. And then I hired another one and it didn't go well. And then I went, hold up, all three of these people were terrible, or it was my leadership terrible. And I had to learn that 90% of the problems that were caused were usually caused by a deficit in me, in terms of I need to go and, fly somewhere and learn about leadership. I need to go travel and be in a room where you're talking about whatever I'm deficient in at that moment. And there was this constant understanding that every time I plateaued or it ended up falling backwards, there's because there was something in me that I wasn't good at. Maybe it was hiring, maybe it was leading, maybe it was recruiting, whatever it was. There's always something that is stopping you from getting to that next level, and we see it on a spreadsheet. It's very simple: 25 to 50 to 75 to 120 to 150 to 185, and it's very cleanly. Man, I see exactly how these numbers add up, and the spreadsheet is so easy to follow. And then life happens, and that's not at all how it works. It goes 57 and then 42. And then you hit something goes different. You learn something different. You go 85. And then something falls apart and you do 56. And then it's this constant difference. And for me, it was like, who is doing it that I can go spend time around? Who is already there? We think that we're like these trailblazers and we're, creating this path and cutting through a jungle. There's always somebody who's already done it and already conquered that mountain, and you can learn so much from them. And I was never afraid to get on a plane and go see whoever that latest guru is. And when I say guru, I use that term very loosely. I want you to understand they're a guru in the exact thing that I want to learn, but they might be a goober in a lot of other ways of their life. I might not want to follow how their marriage is working out or how their relationship is with their kids or the way they don't focus on their health, but in one small segment of their world, they're really, really good. And that's the part that I want to learn from. So then you start seeing people as exactly how they are. They're amazing in so many ways and they're flawed in so many ways. And I don't put anybody in a pedestal and think they're just everything about them is amazing. I look at the things they're exceptional at, and that's where I want to learn from. And I'm okay with the flaws because they're human. And I don't need to put them on this pedestal. I can see what I can learn from them and what I should not do based on what they're doing.
Love that you said that, Nick. And what I tell people often is whenever you're talking to someone who's achieved success in whatever they've achieved, they believe that they know best. Otherwise, they would be fools to be doing it any differently. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other ways or aren't other areas of their life that maybe aren't as successful. And I think that's important to keep in perspective because you get a lot of people in our industry, especially who get up on stages and tell you this is how life is and this is how you should be and this is what success looks like. And you have to look up and ask yourself, what does it mean to me? And what do I want my business to look like? And what do I want my life to look like? And that's one of the most important questions that you can ask. You said something that I think is really important, and I hope everybody caught on to, which is at the beginning of that, you asked yourself, if I wanted to get here, what would it have to look like? And I think that's one of the most important questions that we could ask in anything that we're trying to achieve. In other words, if I wanted to achieve this, what would it have to look like? And what Nick didn't articulate is he's also asking himself, what would I have to look like? What would the team have to look like? What would our structure have to look like? And so I'd love for you to share with everybody, what does your structure look like? To walk me through what the team looks like today. What did it have to look like for you to hit this million in a month?
Yep. So we have 16 agents on the team. 16 agents that, we wake up every day on an 8:30 call together. I have an 8:15 call with my leadership team. I have an 8:30 call with all of my agents. Do all of them show up every single day? No. Do I wish they would? Of course. Do people have lives and stuff gets in the way? And some people come every single day for a while and then fall off and then come back to it. And other people are there all the time and some people are never there. Like it's not a perfect world. I don't want to paint it that way. But we have our 8:30 call. We have a 12 o'clock meeting every Monday. We have education throughout the week. We have different things that were happening to try to figure out where are we struggling and what can we learn to get better in that. We've got an admin team that are a group of ladies that have been absolutely phenomenal at being very clear that no matter what we do, there's always a better way to get to do it and a better something to grow, something to change, a technology to use. we're not perfect on that end. We make mistakes. There's still human error involved, but people take responsibility when something goes wrong. They try to figure out the root cause of the problem instead of just apologizing. It's an apology. And then here's what happened. Here's what went wrong. Here's why our system broke. And here's what we're going to be doing different next time. We have a call every Friday called Fail Forward Friday. And everyone comes there and talks about, what did I fail at this week? What did I learn from that failure? Or I'm still struggling and I need some advice. I need some help. I need some thoughts from the group to help me through this. So you start on a Friday showing up feeling depressed or angry or upset about something that didn't go well, and you leave that call with 3 or 4 or 5 opportunities to make it right or to get better or to grow through that. And all of a sudden, it changes your perspective of failure. So our entire team is focused on looking and identifying failures every single week. And we have a quick saying that says, if you don't have a fail for the week, 2 things. Either one, you're lying because you're embarrassed and your ego won't let you share it, or you're not pushing yourself enough out of your comfort zone. If you tell me, Nick, I'm 100 out of 100 for listing appointments over the last 5 years. Every year I took 20 listing appointments. Every year I got every one of them. Okay, that just means you're not going on enough listing appointments.
Yeah.
Try going on 50, try going on 100 in a year, and now see what your percentage is. So your failures are there. You're not pushing yourself hard enough to fail, which that's a mistake on its own, or you're not actually stopping and reflecting. And that reflection of, let me look back on my week, let me figure out where I failed, and then let me think about what I could do differently today, tomorrow, next week, so that I don't have that same fail. And on our team, remember, our entire motto is trying to achieve our personal and professional best. We're in the business of developing people. That means that it could be a fail I had as a father, could be a fail I had as a husband, it could be a fail I had as a son to my own mom or my own dad. Like, what could it is, whatever it is in any part of our life, and how we can adjust and grow from that and learn how to better show up for that. So 16 agents, about 8 in admin and leadership, full-time ISA who runs our entire lead department. All of that stuff is running, and every single person is making mistakes, is failing, growing, learning, and getting better. And it will never change. We will always be striving for our best and always coming up short and always having failures and figuring out how to learn from that. And for
You know what I
anybody who
love about?
feels like this, oh, I was going to
Go ahead.
say,
No, go
as
ahead.
I'm saying all this, sometimes this is going to sound very like airy fairy and be like, oh man, and you're kind of rolling your eyes over this stuff. But it is an absolute consciousness that's on our team. It's an absolute, like, if someone joins our team and isn't willing to reflect and talk about their failures and isn't willing to, admit that they messed something up or push to get better, that person doesn't last very long. So it seems like I'm just saying all these words and it's like, oh, yeah, sounds great. But it's a reality in our team. It is something that will show up very quickly and will almost push somebody out of our team if they're not learning based, if they're not willing to dive in and put in the hard work, if they're not willing to see this life of abundance where if Ryan gets a listing, Blair's not mad because he didn't get it. He's
Yeah.
thrilled that Ryan got it because there's more listings that can go around. So no one's in competition with each other. And that is a very hard culture to grow, to develop.
What I just heard, Vic, is, what I tell teams often, I'll interview teams and they'll tell me about all these standards that they have. Like, we require this and this is required and this is what we do and this is how we structure it. And yet I find out they've got 30 agents on their team and they're not even doing half of the production that your team will do. And what I'll say is that standards aren't what's written, they're what's enforced. And I think what's so impressive about your team is that you enforce those standards from the very beginning. And does everybody show up to every single one? Of course not, right? And yet, the majority of the people on your team are showing up to this every single day. And I'm betting that along the way, you've probably lost agents who didn't agree with the standard or didn't agree with the culture and self-selected out of it. But I think that's also a bit of a learning experience for every team leader because at the beginning, I bet you were a lot like me and you poured, when I was first building a team, I poured my heart and soul into everybody that came into our ecosystem. And I slowly let them sort of infringe on my standards to make them happy. And I thought if they left, it was a reflection on me and there was something wrong with me. And I'm betting you probably had to go through your like version of that journey too. Walk me through what it was like in the beginning, and then how did you come to the standards that you have today? And how do you feel when somebody comes to you and says, "Nick, I don't want to do this"?
Oh, that's a good question. So one of the things that I've noticed about our standards is our standards are pushed on the people that aren't succeeding. So if you're having a great year and you're selling a ton of real estate and you're hitting your goals, not my goals, I didn't give them to you, your goals that you want to hit, and you're not making the 830 calls, or let's say you had a new baby and you're in a different stage of life and you're dealing with some stuff and you fall off of that wagon for a while, there's no problem there. You're not going to get a call from me saying you're fired off the team, you're not out of here. But what I am going to
Right.
do is I'm going to always watch your production. I'm always going to watch how you're doing. And when somebody starts sliding backwards, I'm calling them personally and saying, "Hey, why don't you start coming back out? Why don't you start being on the 830 calls? Why don't you start coming to the team meetings? Why don't you start being part of the group? Because everyone here wants you to win and they want you to get out there and have your successful year." And I think that in our industry, this is a tough industry. There are a lot of pitfalls and problems and listings falling through and buyers that fire us and all those things that can go wrong. And not having a support system, not having a group, I think people think that, like, if I'm running a team, that everybody should be loyal to me or to my name or to my company, or like, none of that is true. People are not loyal to a person and they never should be. People are loyal to a purpose and to an idea. And if everybody in our team is loyal to the idea of I'm going to be learning based and I'm going to work on always growing personally and professionally, I'm very much not a big part of that. That has nothing to do with me. They're loyal to that sentiment, to that why. And that's what creates our culture, is everyone is loyal to the same idea, that we want to grow and support each other. We want to help each other. We want to pick each other up. We want to celebrate each other's victories. That's where the loyalty lies. It is not in a company or a logo or a person. It's in the belief that we're all here for the same reason. So when somebody comes to me and they say, "You're not the right team for us," or "I'm not happy here," or, "I want this," or "I want that," and it's all about me. I had an agent one time, and I tell this story sometimes, and he came to me and he was like, "Hey, my birthday's next week." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome." And he was like, "I want to put a Patagonia jacket." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Did you tell your wife?" Like, this is a weird thing to say. And he's like, "Really? You can't buy me a Patagonia jacket after all the things I do? Like, that's the least you could do for me." And I was like, wow. Like, here's somebody, he was making $40,000 when I originally interviewed him. Now he's making $400,000, and he did it all himself, and he wanted me to give him gifts and praise him for being amazing. And I saw so much ego in there. And that's not, I don't run around with a lot of ego. It's not the Nick Waldner team, it's the Waldner Winners team. Nobody even knows who I am, and I'm completely fine with that. It's like a law firm with just a couple of last names. That's great for me. And all of a sudden, this person showed up with so much ego and so much belief that he did it all and it was all by himself, and that everybody on the team should kind of walk around him and praise him. And that's not our culture. That's not who we are. Every single person, the top agent, should be cheering on the new agent that's going through the same struggle that they've already solved 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. People on our team, like, somebody will come to our team and have a problem. And I cannot tell you the number of agents that will pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, Casey, I heard you talking about this. Can I help you with that?" Or, "Hey, I'm going to be going and doing this home inspection. I know you're struggling with blah, 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 blah. Why don't you come with me and we'll walk the house together?" And this is all not prompted, not me telling anybody to do anything. This is good, genuine people that are all on the same team, that all have the same goal to grow personally and professionally. And they're all supporting each other in a way that, like I'm humbled by what I see around me and some of the stories. Every single meeting, we have a gratitude slide. Every single meeting is an opportunity for anyone on the team to just raise their hand and say, you know, last week, um, Scott called me and I was struggling with so and so. And Scott, I want to tell you how much I appreciate you helping me through that contract. And I wasn't sure about this and blah blah blah. And like this is all unbeknownst to anybody. But now Scott's getting gratitude for something that he did out of the kindness of his heart. And now somebody else wants to do it, and somebody else wants to do it, and somebody else wants to share their gratitude. And it's that's the culture. That's the thing that all of a sudden the people are together for one purpose.
Yeah, I love that. You said something earlier that I think a lot of team leaders need to get their arms around because so often we'll provide value to agents and then we end up stopping our personal growth because we've hit whatever our sort of, I don't want to call it a ceiling because sometimes we just hit what our goals are personally, right? Like I've hit the amount of money I want to make, or I've hit the size that I want to be, and then I see a lot of leaders just stop, right? And they don't continue to provide opportunity. They don't continue to grow, and I think that people in the end are loyal to what is possible through you. That's what people
Mm-hmm.
are actually loyal to. I actually don't believe that it's culture. I think culture makes us feel good and we have to find culture that's in alignment. But I think at the end of the day, people are loyal to what's possible through you. And if we could have a great culture, but if we stop growing, if we stop providing opportunity, they'll still leave. They'll say, I love you. Thank you so much for this, but I'm still out of here because I have goals that I want to hit. And
They
you're not in
rarely say
production.
I love you when they're leaving. My
you
experience.
you and I have had different exiting experience. But in your experience, you aren't in production anymore. So your full focus is building this team and supporting this team. And I'd love to hear how, even though I know you've hit a lot of your big financial goals that you've had, how you've continued to grow the team and continue to provide opportunity. Because I think that's why you have people who have the tenure with you that you do and who are continuing to stay on the team because they are continuing to find opportunity to be loyal to the opportunities that are created by being part of your organization.
Yeah, that opportunity, it's their opportunity. It's what they're trying to do. So, like for example, I had an agent, Donna, who came to me, and she had been in the real estate game for 4 years at that point. And we sat down, we got to know each other, we built some rapport, and she told me, I really just want to have a year where I'm positive cash flow. And I kind of looked at her and she said, I sell a couple of homes, I spend some money on advertising, I literally break even or lose money every year. I just want to make money. And we got her there. We got her there very quickly. And then I remember her coming to me and we're continuing to have conversations. She said, you know what I would love to do? My husband makes great money. Our family's fine. We're financially secure. I would love to renovate my entire kitchen and I want to do it 100% paid for by me. I don't want my husband to put a dollar into it. That's what I want to give back to my family. And she did it. She spent like $100,000 on this gorgeous kitchen. And every single time she walks into that kitchen, she has that sense of pride that she was a stay at home mom. Then her daughter got older. She got into real estate. It was one of those things. It was kind of a joke. And now here she is standing in $100,000 kitchen. And then just the other day, continuing on that path, she had said, I've always wanted to own a home on the Chesapeake Bay, a second home on the eastern shore of Maryland. That would be like my ultimate thing. And she just closed on $1 million property with some of the best views you've ever seen. And she is constantly growing as a person, personally, professional. Tyler is another one on our team. When I met him, he was running a bar, like literally running the entire thing. So big job, lot going on, but he was also out till 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning every night, closing up all that. And he said, I want to have a family. I want to get married. I don't want this life. So in the beginning, it was, how do I get financially strong enough to quit my bar job? And we got there. And then it was, how do I get financially strong enough to buy my first house? And we got so clear with, it wants to be in this community on the golf course with this, found the house and bought it. and then bought the ring and got engaged, and he gets married soon and he wants to have kids. And another one on our team came to me and said, I've always wanted to live in a golf course community. Not only did we help him get into that community, and then he joined the country club. He bought a golf cart so he could drive to and from the golf club. Then he won the championship for the golf club, so he became very well known in the golf community. And then he moved up to a bigger house, and then he just built a sport court in the back of his yard. And he is living the life that he wanted. And when he first started the conversation, it was like, man, what an ideal world if I could live and play golf in one community and just have that life. And now fast forward, it's now, okay, what's your next vision? What do you want? What's the next opportunity for you? And like, I have this laundry list of people that I know every one of their stories, and like, been in real estate for 5 years and I've never sold more than 5 homes. Casey came to us, and in the first year she sold 13 or 14. So she tripled her business. And now this year she's up like 280% where she was last year. So she's continuing to grow. So in any time that somebody is like, well, I've reached where I want to be, so now the team stops growing. I think the focus isn't you. The focus is the people. The focus is in what they want and where they want to grow and what they want to do. And in my mind, if I'm ever not in a position to help them get to whatever that next stage is, remember, some people are like, I just want to make some money. And then it's, I just want to make $100,000. And then it's, for the first time ever this year, we will have an agent on the team that will net $1 million. And that's something that I wrote down in my vision, that how amazing would it would be. I said five, but this is going to be the first one. This is going to be the first one that'll make $1 million. So I'm still looking at where can I go with this? And it is all about where they want to go. It's all about what they're looking for in their business. And if you don't know that, if you haven't had these conversations, if you're not celebrating the wins, like, do you know how cool it is when somebody was, getting that first whatever it was for them that's important, whatever it is that made such a big impact. Maybe it's 50, maybe it's $100,000, maybe it's 500,000, but stopping and celebrating those moments and having that win together. Um, you and I both know Brian Gubernick very well. And I remember him telling a story. First of all, he's a psychopath. He did 100-mile race where you literally just run for 100 miles. That's insane as it is. But I think one of the stories he told me about that race is around the 50-mile mark, everything hurt. It was miserable. And then around the 80-mile mark, everything below the waist, he really couldn't feel. It was numb, but his back hurt and his shoulder hurt, and he had all these pain. And then when he got to like the 90 or 95th mile, everything was numb. He said, I couldn't feel anything. I could have kept going forever. But what I loved about this race is it had a finish line. It had an
Yeah.
end that I could get to the 100-mile and that I could celebrate this victory. And in our world, we constantly move that 100-mile. We say we want to run 3 miles. We get 2.5 miles in and we say, I wonder if I could do 6. We get 5 miles in and you say, I wonder if I can do 12. We get 10 miles in and we change it to 50. And we keep making these massive changes, and we never stop to actually say, man, let's take a moment and celebrate that I made my first 100,000, or I
Yeah.
bought my first second home, or whatever that may be. So that's the
Yeah. I think
difference, is
that's
it's not about you.
Yeah. And I think what you said is really important, which is your goal was to get 5 agents to 1 million. But to get 5 agents to 1 million, you have to start with getting one agent to 1 million. And, I think that whenever somebody comes to me and says, should I start a team? My first question to them is, are you willing to succeed through others? And are you willing to build a world where people can succeed through you? Because that's your responsibility as a leader. And this is such a good example of that. And I want to shift, Nick, to get into some real tactics. I know there's some people who are sitting on this call and saying to themselves, like, okay, I got it. This is where my head has to be. This is how I have to think about leadership. This is how I have to think about people. But how do I do this? And
Yes, yes.
I went, when you and I were chatting about this, I said, I've got a personal question for you, because you and I actually haven't ever really talked about it. And a couple of
Uh-oh.
years ago, you and I talked about this. I said a couple of years ago, you joined Place and you were running a multi-million dollar, really successful business. And I think a lot of people came to you and were like, what are you doing? You've clearly got this figured out. But you looked up and said, I need a roadmap to get somewhere else. And you found that roadmap in place. So I'd love to hear like what's changed for you. Why did you do it in the first place? What's changed for you? And what tools, tactics have you leaned on to be able to hit this incredible success?
Yeah, so let me start with why it was a benefit to the agents on the team, and how it worked in that sense. If anybody knows Ben and how much time and effort he put into building Brivity and everything they've built there, and then as he started hiring great people, they started pushing him a little bit and building it themselves and growing this thing that was literally built for real estate teams. And I think the biggest difference when we joined Place, we were with Commissions Inc. Sync for, I don't know, 7, 8 years before that. And it's a robust system. It's got everything you need. But the problem is nobody teaches it. Nobody shares how it works. Nobody comes to you and says, if you're an agent and you want to make more money, this is exactly what you do in our system. There isn't any of that. And then all of a sudden, when we made a switch and went from Sync to Brivity, which if anybody has ever changed CRMs, there's not a soul on the team that was like, great idea, Nick, let's change
Let's do
everything.
it.
Like, God, what a sloth that is. But then all of a sudden, like Place started showing up in our meeting and every week talking about a feature that Brivity had, or a tool that Brivity had, or something that they could use. Hey, if you're struggling for a commission check, do these three things. Okay, now do this. Now try this. Here's this. Are you using this feature? And all of a sudden, my team slowly started going, this is the greatest CRM ever. This is amazing. This is so much better than anything we've ever had. And the truth, there's a lot of great CRMs, but CRMs are only as great as you understand them and use them. So when you have somebody that's showing and teaching and going through how it all works and making sure that you're using it, now you start to succeed through it. Now you start to see it as not like something I have to do, but something that actually changes your business. So, like Scott on my team has become phenomenal at day in the life. And if anybody doesn't know what day in the life is you literally open up your CRM, press a button, and it says, here, do this. And it's very short. It's a couple of things. And as soon as you do that, it says, do this, and then do this, and then do this. And each one is the highest priority in your database. And then
But
you
talk
just
more.
keep
I'm going to
going.
interrupt you.
No.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you really quick because I think this is really important because the number one question that we always get asked is like, okay, this is great, but how? How? So, what about day in the life? It's all these priorities, but what are the priorities next? Like, what are your agents actually doing?
Yeah. So, like, we all know speed to lead, right? So, if you get in your database and you press one button and it says Nick Waldner, here are 5 people that came into the system sometime between 8 p.m. and 8 a.m. last night. 8 p.m., I'm putting my kids to bed and I'm probably trying to talk my wife into going to bed at 9. Doesn't always work, but I'm not answering emails. I'm not calling people back. When I wake up in the morning, I hit a button. It says, here's the 5 people or 2 people or one person you need to call first and foremost. Now, as a human being, I can call 3 people if it says 3 people. If I click it and it says, here's 347 people, I'm probably just going to move on and not do it. But 3 people,
Yeah.
all right, I can do it. So I press that button. I call those 3 people. They don't answer. I answer, whatever, doesn't matter. Then the next button pops up and it says, hey, did you get any leads in the last 24 hours? In your open house, when you were talking on the phone with that past client, they gave you that referral. Yes, I did. Where did I put that post-it note? Oh, here's where I wrote it down. The system tells you add them in the database. If you don't tell me to add them within 24 hours of me taking down that number, I'm sorry, 50% of them I forget, 50% of them I'm great with. But what if I could have 100% in our database and then put them in a follow up plan? Then I might go to my active clients, like the ones that are hot right now, and it'll tell you, hey, out of all your active clients, 4 of them you haven't touched base with in the last 7 days. And I'm like, what, really? And then I click and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. They went on vacation. Let me send them a quick text and just say, hey, how was your vacation? Do you want to get out and see homes? And it sounds so ridiculous because it's your hot clients. How are you not on top of them? But some can
It
fall through the
happens.
cracks,
Yeah.
right? But if I have 15 hot clients and two of them fell through the cracks, if as long as I'm using the system, it reminds me and I click on that. And then I go to the next party. And it literally is just like that, where I can go through. I almost say it like this: imagine if you just turned on your database, the house caught fire, and you only have time to call 10 people. Who do you call? Most of us are like, I don't know. This system tells me exactly who my most important. You know what? Fire's not really raging. I have time to do 10 more. Keep going. Oh, nope. The fire department's here. They're starting to put out. I'm going to do 10 more, 10 more, 10 more. All right. It's getting bad. And I get up and leave. Now I got 40 of the most important people in my database connected. And now I have to run for this or that or whatever goes on in real estate, whatever fire we need to go put out. But if the system teaches us. So Scott has created a business. He came over from the lending industry, never been in real estate before. He was literally one of the fastest people to 250,000 in income on our team ever, did it in like a year and a half. And he is absolutely amazing at day in the life and making sure all of his past clients are getting connected and talking to every single people. And he does that because he also has some things going on in his world that he has to focus on. So business is not always the priority at this exact moment, but he follows the plan with day in the life, and he is able to have more time for his personal stuff and still run a pretty massive business by doing that. And it's pretty awesome to watch a tool like that that we handed him that is allowing him to have more time with his family when he needs it while still maintaining a great business.
It's funny, Nick, because I think that we try to overcomplicate this industry because it number one, it gives a lot of people an excuse not to take action, right? When there's too many choices, we just choose none. Or we choose the easiest or the lowest friction, which is usually not what we actually need to do. And or we say it's too complicated, therefore I can't make a decision about what's next or what I should be doing. But at the end of the
Yep.
day, this industry is really simple. If you want to sell more real estate, you have to talk to more people about selling real estate. That's it. And by the way, that doesn't mean that you personally have to do it, but somebody in your organization has to talk to more people about buying or selling real estate. That's the math. So in order to build an organization, go ahead.
I don't like talking to a ton of people. I just want to talk to the people that actually want to talk to me about real estate.
Yeah, well,
And I think,
yes.
but as I say that, I say that jokingly, but like my lead ISA, Alyssa, who's amazing, is in the system every day. She just put 254 people on Gabby AI. These are 254 people that haven't spoke to us, haven't responded to anything. Just they're in there, but they're not responding to anything. Stuck it on Gabby AI. Gabby started texting. Out of the 250 people, 10%, 23 people, roughly 10%, 23 people responded. Of those 23 people, she's had conversations with 11 of them. That's 11 people that she would have never talked to because every time she called, they never responded. And now all of a sudden, she's getting a response from people and she's able to pick up the phone. And if you're like me, I don't want to call 250 leads. I want to call the 11 that actually want to hear from me.
Yeah.
It's so
And
there's some technology there that's changed our business.
For sure. And yes, technology can do it for you. Other agents can do it for you. But ultimately, it's about having more real estate conversations. Yes, with people who are ready to buy or sell real estate. That's the math. That's the math of growing a real estate organization. So, what that means is it's pretty simple. You, as a leader, have to recruit talented agents. You have to give them resources to be able to succeed. You have to build a world where it never makes sense for them to leave. And then you have to continuously leverage your and their time by having a great administrative team. And we didn't get to talk
Yeah.
about this, and I want to make sure that you do that because I think often in our world we talk a lot about sales, but I always say getting to 1 million in revenue has a tidal wave attached to it that your team has to actually service all of those transactions. And tell everybody, how many total transactions was that for you?
To do 1 million in revenue?
Yeah,
Yeah, just for the
in
month.
GCI.
Um,
Yeah, just for
it
the month.
was 63 transactions.
So 63 transactions in 1 month closed, which means that your team is probably dealing with several hundred, right? You've got listings coming up, you've
Yes.
got things that are still pending. So your admin team is dealing with hundreds of transactions at any given time while still supporting your agents. I'd love to hear what your support looks like for them because we talk about sales in our world a lot, but someone has to facilitate the sales beyond just the communication with the clients, everything else that comes along with it.
Yeah, 100%. And the way we look at it is their number one customer is the agent. It's not the client, it's the agent. Our job is to produce a great result for the agent. Now, it happens to also be for the client, but that's not our number one customer. Our number one customer is the agent and us supporting
Mm.
them at our highest level. And when we're hitting some of these months where we're doing more real estate than we've ever done in a month, believe it or not, there are problems. There are balls that get dropped. There were things that we made a mistake on. There are lock boxes that we're short on. There are signs that got beat up, and now we had to order new ones. And there's all kinds of problems that whenever you hit a level that you've never been before, stuff breaks. And
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough for something to break and to let down an agent on one transaction or this or that or drop the ball on something. It sucks. And the reality is when you push yourself to do something you've never done before, you're going to stumble, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall, and the team embraces that fail forward. Trust me, not a single agent likes it when a ball is dropped. But the team is very responsive to who's going to own the problem, who takes ownership of the mistake, and what are you going to do differently so this doesn't happen to me again, doesn't happen to my client again. And when you can come at it like that, like right now, we have built out all these auto plans for brevity because we figured out that no human can remember everything. So we need to make sure it's much more systematized. And even from that, you put in a date here, it automatically fills everything out. But if that date slightly changes and we don't go back and fill it out, it throws off the entire trend. So you learn as you go. Will this system work in the future and get better and better and better? 100%. Did somebody forget to change the date this time? Yes. And it screwed up the whole system. So now we go back and figure out, all right, whose ownership of the date and how do we make sure that gets done and how often are we checking that? And like all these things that you're building for the future so that we can do 100 transactions in a month, 250 transactions in a month. And you forget the part of no human can do that. So you have to build the tools. And as you're building the tools, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to have failures, and it sucks. But we've got to own it and we've got to figure out how to make it better for next time. So our transaction management has gone up tremendously. We haven't hired a single admin since joining place. In fact, we let one go who wasn't performing and didn't need that. We didn't need that role. So we have less people in the admin department doing a lot more production than we've ever done.
Wow, that's incredible. I think that this is such an important point, Nick, because so many of us, when we think leverage, we think, well, I'm going to have to hire somebody and give it all away. And we forget that leverage can look a lot like bringing in technology that helps you to automate things that can be automated so that the people that you have in your organization can focus on the things that require a human touch. And it sounds like you've
Yeah.
done that really well. And that's what
Yeah.
allows us to actually scale rapidly.
Yeah. And you know what I didn't mention is like in the beginning, like when it was just me, I was the person. Whenever something went wrong in the admin department, in the operations department, in the any of that stuff, it came to me. And greatest stuff. I'm not a tech guy. I don't understand all this stuff. I've never even done transaction management other than the crappy version that I did for myself when it was just me selling 30 properties a year. And I always dropped the ball. I always missed an initial. My office would come to me back in the day. And at the end of the year, they'd be like, Nick, we have three checks for $36,000 that were never cashed that were issued to you over the last year. And I'd be like, really? Oh, could you reissue those again? Like, are you kidding? Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But that was the reality of it. So now There is a team that's coaching my admin team and teaching them the tools to get better and to create all the systems and all that stuff, well beyond whatever I could do to help them. So now all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's having partnership to help grow the players on my team. Sales contests have been phenomenal as well. Like having a sales contest where when you win it, everything you're doing in the sales contest is based on what's going to get you income in the future. But that's not the way the agents look at it. They look at it as here's a sales contest. And if I win it, I get a free trip to Arizona or California or Disneyland or whatever it is if I win this contest. So
You're
the
talking about the
contests
sales
are
contest that
fantastic.
we do inside of Place, right?
Yeah. So now the
Yeah.
sales contest that people shoot for in order to win a trip or go to this educational, and you can only go if you win, it's phenomenal because it also shows up on the in their wallet. We had an agent,
Yeah.
Tony, and remember, we check our income every single month compared to where you were last year. And Tony was down. He was down a lot, like 40% or something. And we sat down and I said, Tony, what are we going to do? How do you want to manage this? What do you need help? How can I support you? And he said, you know what? What is this 50 and 50 days open house? And I was like, well, it's 50 open houses in 60 days. I have never done that in my life. In fact, I thought it was insane. And he said, you know what? I'm going to give it a shot. I'm like, you are? And he was like, yeah, I mean, other people are doing it. I should do it. So he sat down. His 50th open house was on the 60th day. Incredible. So he did it. And that's the cool part. He won the contest, whatever. But here's the real part. He ended up that was in July and August. He ended up closing 6 deals, 6 transactions from people he met at the open house between September 1st and December 31st. So he added 6 more closings to his year. He then picked up 5 listings for the following spring from people he met at the open house. And at this point, because now we're in June, he's closed 11 more deals from people he met during those 50 open houses almost a year ago at this point. So that
Incredible.
tremendously impacted his business. He was having a second child. He was getting frustrated and like my income, and I need to make sure I'm making money. I've got, my family and my wife's pregnant and blah, 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 blah. And he committed to something that was well beyond what even I thought was possible. And now 50 open houses in 60 days is not that crazy or scary for anyone on our team. So he did it. And now he's committed to more open houses every month than he's ever done in the past because he saw the success from it. And it all stemmed from a sales contest where he changed his income. He
Yeah.
went from having an off year to actually beating his number from the year before from those extra 6 transactions.
Nick, as I listen to you, I keep hearing these same themes coming up, which is that both you and your team are normalizing these new levels of success and these new levels of effort. And part of surrounding yourself with a group of people who are constantly challenging you and who are constantly striving for more is so that you can have the ability to do that too. And if I had to summarize everything that you've talked about today, what I hear is number one, in order for you to achieve this level of success, you have to have the mindset around it, right? You have to make a decision that you are going to become the type of person. Therefore, you may need to grow, you may need to change, you personally may need to evolve as a leader. Number two, you will never get there by yourself. You have to succeed through others. And the more you can succeed through others, the more you can, probably the faster you can get there and the more impact you can make and the more other people can have the opportunity to change their lives too. And then you have to have systems and infrastructure and accountability and an actual roadmap to be able to get there. And so if you're looking up
Yes.
in your business and saying, I want to achieve this, then there's probably just one of those, or maybe all, where you're missing the mark somewhere. And you need to go and find a roadmap, make a decision about what you want to achieve, figure out the roadmap for you to get there, figure out how you can succeed through others, and then build the system and accountability for you all to get there together. Is that a good summary of today? Like anything you would add to that?
Yeah, I would say one thing that I would see, I've seen a lot of teams build in a way that's not sustainable, build in a way where there's no profit, where they're struggling, where they have these massive teams and they're dealing with all the problems and struggles of owning a team and they're not making any money. They'd be better off being single agents just selling themselves. So there are a lot of roadmaps and a lot of paths to follow. Big is not better. Profitable is better. And I think that's the key is when you start to understand, no, 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 Nick, I built this huge business and we have tons of business and we sell all this and blah, 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 blah. Great. How much profit are you making? Because the entire point of business is profit. It's the entire
Yeah.
point for our agents. We had an agent who was showing on average of 30 homes before the buyer went under contract. So we went right to her and we're like, all right, here's what we need to do different. Here's how we need to change. Here's how we need to set expectations. And like the whole team rallied around, like, you cannot run a business showing 30 homes per buyer and still have a life and a family and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of different pathways, and you have to look up and know what is your goal of your pathway. It's got to be profit related. Otherwise, what's the point?
For sure. I love that. That's a great ad. Nick, we're running up here on time. If people want to connect with you, how can they find you? Where can they find you? And I don't think that we shared maybe at the very beginning, but where are you actually located? If somebody wanted to send your team a referral,
Oh,
where would they send it?
anywhere in Maryland. So if you have anybody looking to buy or sell in Maryland, that's exactly what we do. Send everything from Maryland to us. Instagram, you can find me at Nick Waldner. I'll put my email in here. So if anybody ever wants to email me, they can. It's Nick at Waldner Winters Team. If you liked what you got here, do me a favor and just go to www.review.com. And just if you don't mind, one of the things that we are building on our world is Google reviews. And it's one of the most important things you can do for your business. So I suggest all of you guys do that. But www.review.com, choose the star on the far right, say anything you want about how great this was. Thank you. That is my only ask. So remember, we're not selling you anything. You don't have to buy anything. There is no system here. But if you could leave us a 5-star review, that would be huge for my business. So I'd really appreciate that. www.review.com. And if you have any interest in YouTube, I know a couple people have been texting me on the side. Are you going to talk about YouTube? Why aren't you talking about YouTube? We have an academy that teaches agents how to lead generate through YouTube. It's reachyoutube.com, REACH, youtube.com. That's really simple to find us there as well. So sorry I didn't get into YouTube if anybody was bothering me and saying, why are you talking about that? There was so much more about this than the YouTube part. But yes, YouTube's a big part of it. So reach youtube.com if you have interest in that. But this was
Awesome.
awesome, Nikki. I really appreciate you letting me share and letting people know that this is not me. This is everyone that's together in our group working together to create something like this.
And I think it's so important that you shared that, Nick, because every time we see a success, whether it's a business success, a person success, either of those attached to each other, there's always a story behind how that came together, and usually a lot of people and a lot of effort and a long time that went into that. And I appreciate you
Mhm.
uncovering that for us today, so that someone's not looking up in their first year of real estate saying, "Why haven't I hit my million in a month yet?" You will, and it's going to take some time. It's going to take potentially, hopefully, faster than 22 years. And because you were on this webinar today. After this, we always get asked if anybody wants to learn a little bit more about Place and some of the systems and models that Nick used in order to create this result. We're actually doing a What is Place webinar in a couple of weeks, so you can scan this QR code if you'd like to join that. And we'll send this recording out as well as links to a few of the things that we've talked about in the follow-up email. But thank you all for sharing. And above all, Nick, thank you for sharing. Like I said, I had to bully him a little bit into doing this for us. I know it's challenging for you to get on here and talk about you, but I appreciate it. And I know a lot of people learned something today and are going to take what you shared, and hopefully it's going to inspire them to go and create some incredible results for themselves. And more importantly, for the people that are affected by their success, whether it's on their team or at home or anything like that. So thank you all for being here today. We appreciate it. I hope you'll get to connect with Nick more, and we'll see you soon.
All right, guys.
Bye,
Wait,
everybody.
Margola, do you have a
Oh,
question? Well, she put her hand down. We're good then.
all
Guys,
right.
have a
Bye,
great day.
guys.